In 2012, the hashtag #MissingBasil began appearing across various platforms on the internet. The hashtag was launched by a group of people who became deeply concerned when their friend, a man named Basil Cardabel, seemingly vanished.
My name is Nurbek and I'm from Kazakhstan. I'm missing Basil.
I'm Ignacio Labastida from Barcelona and I miss Basil a lot.
I'm Christopher Adams and I'm missing Basil.
This hashtag would make small waves across the internet, piquing the interest of an audience concerned for Basil's well-being. But the reason for Basil's disappearance wasn't what users had speculated. He hadn't disappeared out of thin air or left his life behind on a whim. The reason was much more disturbing.
Since long time, I wanted to say something to the people who are helping us. And now I have the opportunity to do so. Maybe you think that we are in a sad situation, but actually the support of the people, Arab and foreigners, is keeping us going. This is very important for us. Thank you very much for your support on behalf of Basil, his family, my family, and myself.
This clip, posted by Basil's wife, Nora, was just one of 2 videos she recorded that day. The other video, when translated from Arabic to English, reads, "Nora thanks Basil's friends," this time in Arabic. This recording is longer than the English variant and goes into more detail about what actually happened to Basil. Nora explains that in March of 2012, her husband Basil was detained by the Syrian military. The reason for this wasn't known. It would later be revealed that following this detainment, Basil was interrogated and tortured for 5 days straight. During this time, nobody in Basil's inner circle knew his exact whereabouts or what was actually happening to him.
Good evening. My name is Nasser Wadadi. I just finished a 24-hour fast in solidarity with Syrian-Palestinian software engineer Basil Safadi.
With no formal reason given as to why Basil had been taken, Basil's friends, as well as the rest of the world, could do nothing but watch as Nora slowly, mentally deteriorated. She would make countless posts under the Missing Basil hashtag, as well as a number of more personal, heartbreaking videos.
ما عم يطلع معي قصيدة بعيد الحب. يمكن لازم شوفك. اسرق كلماتي من عيونك. ما عم فكر إلا بعيونك. ووقت بيتعلق الموضوع بعيونك بيسكت الكلام. بيعجز الكلام.
Basil would remain missing for 3 years before the nature of his arrest came to light. Basil, having worked as a software developer, was the project lead for Creative Commons Syria and was a volunteer contributor for Firefox and Wikipedia. A lot of people attribute Basil to being one of the key factors in bringing the internet to Syria. And this work in particular is believed to have led to his arrest and secret execution in 2015.
It was determined last week that Basil Khartabil, our colleague and fellow Wikimedian and free culture advocate from Syria, had been executed in 2015, shortly after he went missing from the prison where he had been detained.
Those following Basil's story were heartbroken by the outcome. The story of an individual attempting to bring freedom and knowledge to a country in the dark ended with his unjust death. While there is a short list of people in prison for their contributions on Wikipedia, Basil Cardabel is the only person listed to have lost their life because of it. So as I'm recording this, the plan is for this video to be the first Something Sinister video of 2026. And if that is in fact the case, I hope that you guys had a wonderful holiday season, and I'm so happy that you are now joining me in the new year. And before we get into the video, I just want to make mention of something that I was really thankful for. Because it's a new year, Kindle sent me a report of my book sales, and I was absolutely blown away by the number of people who have been buying copies of my book. I mention it on the channel from time to time. It's called They Eat You From the Inside. It's a horror book, my first book that I've ever written. And if you are one of the people who were in that sales report that I saw, I thank you so much for your purchase and support, honestly. This was kind of just something that I wanted to do because I like reading, and I was like, oh, I think that would be cool to try and do that. But obviously I didn't really anticipate very many people to see it. So again, thank you if you were one of these people. And if you are interested in checking out the book, I will leave the Amazon link down in the description below. Thank you guys so much for stopping by, and I hope you enjoy the rest of the video. It's that time of year again when you visit Wikipedia only to be met with a message like this. Wikipedia still can't be sold. We're sorry we've made several attempts to reach you lately, but it's Friday, December 19th, and we still need some help. If everyone reading this gave $2.75 today, we'd hit our goal in a few hours. Wikipedia is run by a nonprofit, not by a billionaire. If I'm being honest, I've never once donated to keep Wikipedia alive. I visit each year, silently crossing my fingers that they meet their goal, so that after the new year, I can continue using their platform. It's hard to think of a world in which Wikipedia doesn't exist. If you're like me, I'm sure you've been using the website since its launch in 2001. Whether it be for gathering information for a school paper or simply browsing a topic you're interested in, the site has helped countless people time and time again. But it didn't always used to be this way. Prior to being the Wikipedia we know today, the website creators had a project known as Nupedia. This website was basically a carbon copy of Wikipedia. It still operated as an online encyclopedia and featured articles that were written by volunteer contributors. But the big difference was the way in which content was posted to the site. Wikipedia gets its name from the live wiki-based updating. A wiki in specific is just a form of hypertext, which allows people on the website to collaboratively edit and post content. Nupedia was a bit different, as it used a much more extensive peer review process. The idea was to have experts in particular fields contribute to the articles. That way there was a much smaller room for error. But the problem was, whereas Wikipedia had 200 articles in its first month, Nupedia only had 21 in its first year. As of today, Wikipedia is home to roughly 64 million pages. A staggering number to think about, even by today's standards. You can practically find a Wikipedia page on any topic, any notable person, and even things that are so niche, it's a shock that they even have a page in the first place. This got me thinking to myself, with so much information on so many different topics, is there any subject matter that's off limits? I guess for the sake of this video, topics too disturbing to even mention. Well, according to Wikipedia's policy and guidelines, as long as the information is verifiable, told from a neutral point of view, and doesn't contain things like self-promotion or advertising, in theory, anything should go, right? There's actually an extensive list of quote-unquote protected titles. These are categories containing information that is not often easily verifiable and therefore cannot be edited. While I can't show quite a few of these on here, there are a few that stand out, like Wikipedians who like the Beatles, people who wrote their own Wikipedia entry, and poop. Given this figure, 64 million, I'm sure it isn't hard to imagine that tucked away in these seemingly never-ending pages are some truly disturbing articles. Now, when searching for disturbing Wikipedia articles, I was met with what you'd expect. Link upon link to various articles containing, information on genocide or, tragic historical events, evil people, both fictional and non-fictional. And to say that one of these is the most disturbing against the others is impossible. However, there are pages on Wikipedia called categories. These categories are dedicated to organizing a bunch of Wikipedia articles underneath an all-encompassing topic. And it's in places like these where you can find a myriad of disturbing articles all in one place. Take, for example, this page categorizing unidentified descendants. These are people who were found dead, but neither police or medical examiners are able to determine the true identity of the person. By visiting some of the links posted on this page, you'll be met with a number of disturbing images of facial reconstructions. Now, we've talked about these on the channel before, but these recreations are an attempt to get a better look at what these unidentified people looked like prior to their death. Needless to say, not only are they disturbing to look at for their uncanny quality, but also the simple fact that the person you are reading about is no longer alive. One of the lesser-known names on the page is a woman by the name of Mary Anderson. The photograph listed on Mary's Wikipedia page shows an unsettling digital forensic facial reconstruction. According to her Wikipedia article, Mary booked a hotel room on October 9th, 1996. When she arrived, she checked in under the name Mary A. Anderson, an alias that police would later find out was entirely made up. After several days passed, hotel staff noticed that Mary hadn't checked out of her room, even though she had only booked it for 2 nights. Upon unlocking Mary's room, the hotel staff were met with a horrific scene. Mary was dead, laying in bed with a Bible on her chest. On the bedside table was a note that read, "To whom it may concern, I have decided to end my life, and no one is responsible for my death. Signed, Mary Anderson. P.S. I have no relatives. You can use my body as you choose." When police found out that Mary had lied about her name, the FBI tried to identify her through her fingerprints, but were ultimately unable to successfully trace them. Nearly 30 years later, online investigators are still trying to figure out the true identity of Mary and what could have compelled her to do what she did. Some believed she erased her identity so that none of her family members could ever find out what happened to her. Others wonder why she chose a painful death like cyanide poisoning. I bring this case up not as an attempt to solve it, but to illustrate a bigger point. Mary's story is tragic, but it's just one incident on this extensive list of unsolved tragedies. When navigating the internet today, it is undeniably more difficult than ever to distinguish between things that are real and not real. Whether it be misleading AI videos or, news articles that were written with certain motivations behind them. At the end of the day, misinformation is practically impossible to avoid. If you grew up in the 2000s like me, there's a good chance that you probably used Wikipedia as a means of gathering information for, whether it be like a school paper or homework or something like that. And if that's the case, there's an equally good chance that your teacher probably told you that Wikipedia isn't a credible source. And while you might have rolled your eyes back then when you heard this, the adults or teachers, whoever was telling you that, isn't necessarily wrong. The idea that anyone can contribute to a Wikipedia article, regardless of their knowledge or expertise on the subject, can be kind of concerning. And it's this exact freedom on the platform that has gotten it into a lot of trouble. Ironically enough, there's a Wikipedia page dedicated to a list of Wikipedia controversies. One of the most notable took place in 2005 when a Wikipedia article under the name John Siegenthaler was released. This Wikipedia page stated that a man named John Siegenthaler was directly involved in the assassinations of former President John F. Kennedy and his brother, U.S. Attorney General Robert F. Kennedy. The article was posted on May 26, 2005, and was contributed by an anonymous Wikipedia editor. Prior to being deleted, the article contained the following claim. John Siegenthaler was the assistant to Attorney General Robert Kennedy in the early 1960s. For a brief time, he was thought to have been directly involved in the Kennedy assassinations of both John and his brother Bobby. Nothing was ever proven. You're probably thinking the exact same thing that I am. Why bring up something so serious only to follow it up with, well, we're not really sure. The strangest thing, however, is that this mystery person, John Siegenthaler, wasn't a fictional person created by this anonymous Wikipedia user. John was a real person, and this user was claiming that he took part in one of the most infamous assassinations in U.S. history. As it turned out, John Siegenthaler was a journalist working for a Tennessee newspaper. He worked at this paper from 1949 to 1960, when he, as correctly stated in the article, resigned to act as Robert F. Kennedy's administrative assistant. So the aforementioned claims from the anonymous Wikipedia user weren't entirely random. John wasn't just some guy who just so happened to find himself in a predicament with individuals he never met. John knew the Kennedys. But why was someone 42 years after the fact now claiming that John had been conspiring against them all that time ago? It seemed the answer lied with the identity of the anonymous Wikipedia user himself. Following the false Wikipedia article, John Siegenthaler reached out to Jimmy Wales, the co-founder of Wikipedia, and asked him to have any and all evidence of the article's existence erased. John soon became obsessed with finding the identity of the anonymous Wikipedia user who defamed his name. John had even reportedly reached out to BellSouth, an internet service provider, and demanded that they identify the anonymous user's IP address. They refused to do so without a legal court order. It wouldn't be until December of 2005 when the anonymous user would be identified. With no help from BellSouth, John reached out to Daniel Brandt, the creator of a website called Wikipedia Watch. When hearing about John's case, Daniel personally looked into the IP address of the anonymous user, tracing it back to a delivery service company located in Nashville, Tennessee. Upon posting this information to the Wikipedia Watch website, the operations manager of Rush Delivery, a man named Brian Chase, came out and admitted to posting the false claims about John, stating that he thought that Wikipedia was some sort of joke website. Though John never sought out any further legal action following Brian's confession, the ramifications for what would later be known as the Wikipedia Siegenthaler biography incident would forever stain the website's reputation. Following the incident, hoax articles began popping up everywhere from people who were amused by John's story. Suddenly, Bertrand Meyer, an academic and author, was dead when he really wasn't. A woman named Madame Rebecca Waltemath was listed as having invented the napkin. And Jimmy Wales, the aforementioned co-founder of Wikipedia, was caught editing his own Wikipedia article, making it seem like the website was entirely his idea. The scary thing is that if you were someone reputable enough to have your own Wikipedia page, there was not a lot you could do to prevent someone from making outlandish claims about you. Sure, you could catch it early on, but why should anyone have to routinely police their page to catch any false information? It made it seem like Wikipedia was more of a breeding ground for trolls and less of what it had set out to be, a free online encyclopedia. But all of these cases of hoax articles pale in comparison to what would become Wikipedia's biggest scandal. In August of 2015, 10 years after the John Siegenthaler incident, a large community was outed for creating dozens of accounts for the sole purpose of taking advantage of people. Before we get too deeply into this next community, I want to explain a term that will be useful going forward. The term sock puppet account isn't just exclusive to Wikipedia. A sock puppet account is a basic term for anyone on the internet who is creating an account under a false name with the sole purpose of deceiving people. And now there are even like subdivisions when it comes to the term sock puppet, depending on what the purpose of the sock puppet account is for. Now, to use an example that you might be familiar with, we often nowadays hear the term review bombing. So if someone or a group of people really hate a piece of media like a movie or a TV show, they'll go on platforms like Rotten Tomatoes or IMDb and use these sock puppet accounts that they've created to leave a barrage of negative reviews. The end goal being that by the time all of the sock puppet accounts have left a negative review, the overall score for the piece of media will be significantly lower. Another contemporary example would be an internet troll who, creates an account just for the sole purpose of going on different platforms and being a dick. But on August 31st of 2015, Wikipedia discovered a number of sock puppet accounts being used on the platform for a singular purpose. This network, which was estimated to contain nearly 400 sock puppet accounts, would come to be known as Operation Orange Moody. These accounts would be discovered by the English Wikipedia community. Not only would they find that these sock puppet accounts were editing pre-existing Wikipedia articles, but it's also estimated that they created more than 200 of their own. And the intent behind these accounts wasn't just to stir up controversy, it was much darker. Members of the English Wikipedia community found that Operation Orange Moody was an undisclosed paid editing ring. This meant that the ring was actively extorting money from people and businesses who had articles about them previously rejected. This rejection could have stemmed from a number of different reasons, whether the business or individual wasn't relevant enough, or their information wasn't easily verifiable. Whatever the case may be, members of Operation Orange Moody would actively search for these rejected articles, and then reach out to the business or individual and pose as legitimate Wikipedia administrators. They would then promise the official publication of the previously rejected article in exchange for money. But this wouldn't last for long. Since Operation Orange Moody was exposed in 2021, all of the sock puppet accounts associated with the editing ring have been removed from the site. Unfortunately, this is far from the only incident of a sock puppet account, or multiple, being used to extort people for money. There are actually a handful of blackmail cases that have been filed against Wikipedia. This includes a case where a high-profile businesswoman was reportedly the target of a fictitious article and what would later be considered to be a smear campaign against her. But hiding elsewhere, deep within the internet's free encyclopedia website, was information connected to disturbing lost video footage. In 2006, an anonymous girl from Werribee, Australia, began communicating over MSN Messenger with a couple of boys. The plan was to meet up at a local shopping center to hang out, but as the anonymous girl got her things together and traveled to the Werribee station, all was not as it seemed. When she arrived, the girl was not only met by the couple of boys she was talking to online, but also a large group of their friends. The group then proceeded to record themselves committing various criminal acts against her. And unbeknownst to the girl at the time, but the entirety of her torment was being recorded as a part of what the media would later describe to be a Jackass-inspired movie. This group of boys had previously recorded themselves doing stunts, fighting, and vandalizing property, as well as harassing random people on the street. This girl, who the boys had met over Messenger, was to be the star in the next installment of their film. The boys featured in the movie would go on to print numerous DVD copies of the aforementioned stunts, including what happened to the girl at Werribee Station. And though the film features a slide telling the audience that the girl had no problem with what happened, reality tells a different story. Following the release of the DVD, Werribee police began an extensive investigation, claiming that the footage they saw was some of the most disturbing they had ever seen. When interviewing the anonymous girl seen in the film, she reportedly displayed evident signs of trauma. And in March of 2007, each of the boys shown in the footage were charged for what they had done. At the time the DVD had been completed, the boys were selling copies for $5 apiece to people in their town. During this time, that was the only way to view the disturbing footage. But that changed fairly quickly. The film was said to have popped up on YouTube under various names, including Pimp My Wife, among other titles. Of course, when searching for these today, they no longer exist due to violating community guidelines. For a while, the film was considered to be a piece of lost media, the only footage remaining stemming from various news stories covering the event. This talk surrounding what the boys had done had only made their project more desirable. People on the internet gave in to their morbid curiosity, attempting to seek out original copies, but ultimately the footage was impossible to find. But then something happened. Because anyone could write and contribute to Wikipedia, an article titled "The Werribee DVD Incident" was created in October of 2013. This article was contributed by an individual who had extensive knowledge of the footage. Listed in their sources is a now deleted article that was written right as the events in Werribee were taking place. Not only does this article contain a photograph of the highly sought-after DVD, but it also goes into detail about what exactly happened in the lost footage, including a detailed synopsis of what had happened to the anonymous girl. I can't go into detail here, but what they did to her was absolutely disgusting. This deleted article, cited on the Werribee DVD Incident Wikipedia page, is the closest look that we'll probably ever get at the unseen footage. And I think that's for the best. All of the boys featured in the DVD footage were ordered to attend rehabilitation. 6 of the 8 received youth supervision orders, and 2 were given probation orders. A generous outcome, if you ask me. I think that the Werribee DVD incident stands out because it showcases something unique to Wikipedia. Because anyone can contribute, the site offers endless, valuable information that otherwise might be lost to time. As their donation message on the front page of the website reads, Wikipedia has been serving the internet for nearly 25 years. In a world that is increasingly being taken over by machines and artificial intelligence, Wikipedia stands out as being perhaps one of the only mainstream sites offering information directly from humans. And though humans are not perfect and come with errors, I think there is something endearing about this concept. While this video isn't an ad for Wikipedia by any stretch of the imagination, it made me appreciate them a little more. Just enough to give them the $2.75 they need to keep going.